I'm Andrea Williams, Associate Professor of English and Director of the Women's Place in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. A lot of my research has focused on writings by Black women authors. When studying Black women authors in the 1800s and the early 1900s, I noticed a pattern. They were often writing about marriage and storylines that foregrounded family life. And this was important, especially in the aftermath of slavery when many Black families had been separated. Yet, while writing about marriage, so many of these women were themselves single women, either never married, or as I prefer to say, ever single, separated, or widowed. And so I began to think, was there something about singleness that gave these women the time, education, and public platform to be able to branch out as authors? Taking a bigger step back, I decided to ask a larger question. How did singleness become a viable long term lifestyle over the first half of the 20th century? To understand the significance of this gradual transition, we have to remember not to take for granted that many of the things we understand now as part of the single experience actually couldn't be counted on then. Something as simple as a woman having credit in her own name, or signing up for her own apartment, or going to an event unattended was a pattern that had to be made acceptable over time. And this acceptance came from an increasing number of fictional literary characters who were single and successful, and more importantly, from Black women authors who embodied single professionalism and single independence. What I really love about this project is that it allows for me to delve into the archives. In addition to looking at novels and literary pieces like autobiographies, I also get to dig into these women's private business. I look at diaries, at letters, at unpublished manuscripts, financial records, uh, also thinking about where did they live and how did that matter to the ways that they were able to arrange their lives. One of my favorite finds has been finding out more about Jane Edna Hunter. She was raised in South Carolina and came to Cleveland in the early 1900s after leaving a loveless arranged marriage. Married for just over 1 year, she lives the rest of her life single. And after recognizing how difficult it was for her to find affordable and safe housing in Cleveland, she founded in 1911 the Phyllis Wheatley Association, a single sex housing complex for working women and female students to be able to live in safety during a time when it was unacceptable or not very common for women to rent apartments on their own. This space was really important because it gave a safe housing space for women to be able to elongate or prolong the time that they lived as single, some determining to live there for decades and deciding to remain single for the rest of their lives. I have to add that this project has a special importance to me because I think about how Jane Edna Hunter and Pauline Hopkins, among many others, were single women who contributed to Black intellectual life and single independence, making those two possible for me.